These are the most insane and crazy Amazon stories ever shared in the Joe Rogan podcast. Story number 1. Starting with an episode featuring Paul Rosolie, where he shared his terrifying and dangerous experiences in the Amazon, along with all the crazy stuff that happened there.
I was very lost and very alone, and I was like on like day 6 or something of being lost. I don't remember. No, it wasn't that long of a solo. But I was lost and I was scared. And I was in a hammock.
How did you get lost?
Well, as soon as you leave the river, like you could literally walk 15 feet and then be like, I'm just going to come right back. And the jungle will like Blair Witch you. Because it's all green. So you just like think you know what you're doing. Just last week, I wanted to cross from one trail to another trail. And I was like, I'm a guide. I can do this. And I came back out on the same trail like a half hour later. And I was like, yep, that's what I meant to do. Let's go. And like, it happens to JJ all the time.
Really?
You cannot find your way in the
jungle.
jungle.
Do you use a compass?
Don't use a compass.
Why not?
Because actually, apparently some of the iron content and some of the saps in the trees pulls the needle. It doesn't work really well.
Even the trees are trying to trick you. Oh my God.
GPSs run out of batteries. You know, it's like you really you have to learn your bushcraft. You have to learn how to navigate in the jungle, and it's like which is pretty much you have to get just amazing at dead reckoning and remembering your course, because it's so dense that like we play with people. We go, go see if you can go from here to there. And it's like they can't go there. They can't do that as soon as you leave the river. So like I had gone out on this solo, gotten lost, gotten scared, and then been like, oh shit, what if I just like into the wilded myself? What if now I'm gonna be the next kid that went and died in the Amazon? And like I like slept in the hammock, but this is like as I was learning, so I didn't realize that the hammock that I had bought had a mosquito net on top, but the back was not mosquito proof, so they could stick through. So my back was being destroyed by mosquitoes as I'm trying to sleep, and like a couple of nights of that. And so I finally fall asleep, and I wake up in the middle of the night, and I hear breathing right next to my face, and I like wanted to turn my headlamp on, and I just hear like right here. Like I could feel her breath. And I was like 6 inches away from a jaguar's face. And she just like, and then left. And she just came in. She wanted to see what that was. She was like, you're not going to move. That's what you're not going to do. She growled like right into my ear. And then later on. But that one's cute though. That's a cute picture. That's a cute jag.
Wow. And they vary in colors and the spots and everything, right? Like some of them are much darker.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, actually somebody recently was like, where do you see panthers? And I went on this whole thing of like, a leopard or a jaguar, just like you can have albinos, you have a melanistic one. Yeah.
Wow.
So like people would call that a panther, but a panther's not a real, there's no animal that's a panther. It's like a Kleenex. It's like it's just another name for it.
That is so beautiful.
But a black
Look
jag.
at that thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's beautiful.
Yeah, in South India they have the black leopards.
What an amazing looking animal.
Look at the muscles.
Yeah, it's an amazing killing machine. And so humans don't get taken out by them?
I can only really speak for our region of the Amazon, but I haven't even heard a story about it.
Really?
Like no one. Our jags are just, we have like record numbers of jags. Like I think they're listed as near threatened, and we have like some of the strongest remaining jaguar populations in the world. It's incredible.
And you barely see them. We
barely see them. The last one I saw was 2 years ago, and some people like go their whole lives without seeing them.
Really?
Yeah. Well, because people walk off into the jungle and they don't realize people. It's so funny living in the wild and seeing people show up there, and it's like people come and they're like they smell like shampoo and cologne and bug spray and deodorant, and they're just like, if to an animal that has such better senses than we do, they might as well just have like sirens on them. And like you are this shiny, glittering foghorn of attention in the jungle, and like every animal is going to run away from you. And so people are always like, how come you go out and you see so much stuff? And it's like, I only shower in the river. I live out in the jungle. I smell like they do. Like I'm out there for weeks, and it's like I'm not going and like shampooing my hair. It's like, and so like to these animals, like they know when you're coming. Like a jag's just going to be like, oh, there's a human there.
Do you wash with soap when you wash in the river?
I do use a biodegradable soap. You have to keep your skin clean or else you just get infections. But like for the most part, like my clothing, everything, like I don't use anything that's scented. because of that, because I want to be out there and just blend in. And that's whether I'm out in the field with elephants or whether you're out in in Africa or India or whether you're in the Amazon. I want to be sort of like included. I want to blend in. And so like not that long ago, I was checking a camera trap and I thought it was we had students at our research station at the time, and I heard like the leaves going like and it was like September, so the jungle was dry. And I turned around and I was going to scare this person because I was going to be like, who walks that loud in the jungle? Like, you have no respect. And I turned around with my finger up, and this jag walked right by me on the trail and just went, what's up? And just kept walking. And I was like, finger up. And I was like, okay.
Oh, Lord.
But I took that as good because at least I was, my like scent trail was so that he didn't know I was there. I could see it on his face. He didn't care. He was like, hey. But I mean, he was 6 feet away. He didn't even break his stride. He just walked by me and was like, yo, what's up?
They don't think of you as food, so they just keep moving.
No, and I think they're, with big cats, the mothers teach the young how to hunt, and I think they're so oriented, like with tigers, they're so oriented on horizontal, get the neck from underneath, break the neck from up top. And it's like when they see a vertical animal walking by, I think they're like, first of all, I don't know what this is. Second of all, it smells weird. Third of all, where do I even, you got to be desperate to take that risk. I don't think that lions are a different story, but with jags, with tigers, with leopards, I've never ever felt any fear being around a jaguar, like any fear. I don't even take pictures of them. I just enjoy it.
Wow.
I let other people take pictures. If I'm with people, I'll let them take pictures, but I will not lift my camera for a jag. I'll just stand there and just
take it in.
Yeah. You get to see them so rarely. I don't want to sit there finally seeing one and then put another screen in front of my face. Look through it through some glass. Like,
whoa.
Yeah.
Sleeping in the forest and suddenly opening your eyes to a jaguar right in front of you. That's straight up terrifying. The Amazon isn't just a bunch of trees and animals. It's a whole different world, one that doesn't care if you're ready for it or not. This place is massive. We're talking about over 400 billion trees, thousands of rivers, and animals that haven't even been discovered yet. You can hear noises at night that don't sound like anything you've ever heard before.
Yeah, that's our camera.
They've started them. That's from yours?
Yeah.
Wow, look at that thing.
Yeah.
That is so majestic. What an amazing animal. With his glowing eyes.
Well, that's the crazy thing. You shine your headlamp into the night, and then when things look back at you, you got to wonder what it is. It's like,
well, when there's two eyes in the front, it's
two eyes in the front, yeah. But sometimes the deer, but then the jags do this thing where they move their head like this. They try and see around your headlamp. They'll like do this little side to side thing. Like the deer, they'll just blink at you. They'll just blink, and so you start learning the eye shines. You start learning the, because then you can be out there at night and you look at something and people are like, oh shit, dude, it's a jag, and it's like, no, it's a deer.
When you were saying that the uncontacted tribe were speaking in monkey calls, what are they doing?
So JJ's dad used to tell us, he said, if you're ever out in the forest and something doesn't sound right, he was like, get out of there. And he was like, because they will use the tinamou calls, like the undulated tinamou is like, but like we know what that sounds like, but we also know what it doesn't sound like. And so like every now and then you'll hear one that's, different. And like we all get freaked out because we're like, that's how we do it. That's how JJ taught me to do it. Like if there was a bunch of tourists right there and JJ wanted me to come over and like chill with him and we wanted to go hang, he would just do that. You'd get my attention. And like I know that it's not a tinamou. I know it's JJ. And so it's like they've taken that to a whole nother level where they can communicate. And so there was a group of guys who was upriver and they got surrounded. They heard monkey calls coming from different directions. And they realized that they were completely surrounded. And they, like at least one of the guys who was telling it to me, he got in the water and like crawled like a turtle and like escaped. And then the tribe showed up, and then there was this whole showdown where they actually shot one of the community members, and then one of the guys who knows some of their language was saying that it looked like they were mad with the guy that shot the guy. They were mad with him. Like they were like, why did you do that? Now there's going to be retaliation. Like, why did you shoot him? And like there was like a whole discussion happening while these people were like huddled in the stream waiting to see if they got killed too. So it's like I don't really, so when you get these loggers going in there, it's like, yo, we'll pay you to protect the rainforest, and like you don't have to do this. You don't have to be going into these areas that are that dangerous. So at this point now, though, through all of this, though, we've established jungle keepers. We have 50,000 acres. We're trying to do 300,000 acres. And if we can do that, we'll basically be helping to establish one of the largest protected areas in the Amazon rainforest, which will encompass these uncontacted people. And they can stay uncontacted and they can stay safe and do whatever they want to do in the jungle, guarding the secret pyramids and the giant ground sloths or whatever the hell it is that they do. But we're close.
Now, how many uncontacted tribes are they aware of?
I think there's like over 100 different groups across the Amazon. Wow. There's also varying degrees of, and the other thing is the conversation so often gets turned to like they're, violent, and that they're people that live out in the jungle. And I have no idea how they do it either because, at night we need headlamps. We don't have night vision. All the animals have night vision. So it's like, what do they do that night? They're able to make fire in the jungle at night every day. If I gave you an entire book of matches, me and you, we sat down right now in the jungle. I was like, okay, cool. You got a machete and a book of matches. First one to make fire wins. We couldn't do it. It's wet. Everything is wet. So how are they? What's their? Are they doing bow drill? What are they doing? So
we don't know.
We don't really know. No. We don't know how they do that. We don't know how they stay infection free. We don't know what they do with their old people. We never see old people. We never really see children. And so like they move around and we see like groups of men on beaches. We see like that aerial picture where you see like a family group out. That's in turtle season where you have turtles laying their eggs on the beaches and the tribes will come out because that's easy food. You just pick up turtle eggs and eat them. But there's so much that we don't know about their lifestyle. And like people get so many things wrong. Just, if you leave them alone, then they won't kill you. If you, then people go, they're Stone Age tribes. And it's like, well, they're not Stone Age tribes because they're alive right now. And you couldn't live out in the jungle, but they can.
Right.
So it's like there's elements of their botanical knowledge, their medicinal knowledge, their creation myths, their view of history. I mean, they're coming at reality from a whole different perspective than we are.
Wow. And there's really no way to get... Does anyone speak their language? Do we know what language they all speak? Is it universal? Do they have different languages?
It's not universal, and there was someone in our region who, captured a child from the uncontacted, raised him in a very remote community, and people have tried, anthropologists have tried. They've been like, hey, so what was it like when you grew up? And it's dark. He's just like, I don't remember. Like, no one's been able to get any information out of him.
How old was he when they captured him?
I think 6. Under 10 for sure.
Does he not remember? Or does he just not want to talk about it?
I don't know. There's all these underlying stories. Oh man, yeah. There's just. Then last year, some loggers went to a place they shouldn't have gone, and they got whacked. And sort of like the WhatsApp underground in Peru, like everyone was sending each other pictures because one of the cops sent to his family a picture of what the bodies looked like on day 6, laying on the beach with arrows in them and shit. And it was like, oh my God. It was like this. It makes you stay in bed at night. You're just like, I'm not going out.
Jesus.
But I mean, yeah, it's a complicated topic because there's people that want to contact them. There's people that want to leave them alone. And then, of course, there's missionaries that are like, they need the Bible.
What did you think about Lost City of Z?
I loved the book. I wanted more from the movie.
Of course.
Yeah.
There's only so much time and
yeah.
Hollywood fuckery.
Oh, God. The book was fantastic. And that guy was out of his mind.
Out of his mind.
Out of his mind.
Yeah.
Percy Fawcett.
Yeah.
Percy Fawcett. But the fact that he could go on those expeditions and not get infected. Mm-hmm. I've been brutally hold on, let me show you. I'll show you this picture. I don't think there's any way of pulling this up, but
oh my God.
The jungle just gets into your skin.
Oh, what is that on your face?
MRSA infection. It started mosquito bites, and then I would scratch, and then you don't realize you're spreading it with your fingernails, and you go like this and shit. And so, I almost died from that. But I was staying in the jungle to take care of an anteater. But it's like,
how did you get free of that? If you're in the jungle, did you use antibiotics?
Go home.
You just go home.
I had to go home at that point. I remember I got to JFK, and the guy, he looked down at my passport. He goes, "Yeah, what were you doing in Peru?" And then he looked up at me and he goes, "Buddy, what the fuck?" And I was like, I'm just trying to get it. And he stamped it. He was like, go, 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 go. He's like, go to the doctor. I can't believe they let me through.
Right. You could have been infected with some crazy plague.
Could have had like monkey Ebola. Like
Yeah.
it looked bad. And I spent days in the hospital. Like it was really, really bad. But for Percy Fawcett to not, they would say like other people would be dying. There was somebody, I think the guy's name was Murray. He came from the Shackleton expedition. He'd already been out with Shackleton, so he was like, I'm a real explorer. And he didn't last any time with Fawcett. Because Percy Fawcett was just like, you can't keep up? Go die. You can go die with the mules. Like he just wouldn't stop. So my question is like, did he go out and eventually get killed, or did he eventually go out and like find the tribe that made him their king and just?
There's no knowledge.
There's no
right?
knowledge of it.
Yeah, no one really knows what happened to him.
And they
right?
said in that book that over 100 people have died looking for him since he left. Because then the other expeditions that have gone out, all of those have died too.
Story number 2. Now let's look at another story in episode number 1240 with Forrest Galante. This guy traveled all the dangerous places, but he claims that the Amazon is one of the craziest he has ever been to.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's like what it must be to just be in the Amazon itself as well, right?
For sure.
In the jungle, not just the rivers and the lakes or whatever's out there, but the actual jungle itself.
It was incredible. The jungle there. So we were in Colombian Amazon, and like talk about untouched by people. There's been this kind of ongoing conflict in Colombia for many, many years. So we were the first Westerners to go there in over 60 years. So the village we flew into, they'd literally never seen white people before. And then we went 200 kilometers from that. So like middle of nowhere.
Did they want to touch you?
Yeah, hair. Because their hair was very dark and very different. And like, I'm not particularly fair, but just to touch like the hair and see the blue eyes and stuff, they were just loving
friendly?
it. Super friendly. Like the culture was very stoic. Like there wasn't a lot of smiling or crying. You know, there wasn't like a lot of emotional exchange. But straight away they came and greeted us, like shook hands, you know, said hello. It was really cool.
Wow, that's gotta be. Now, how do you set something like that up? Do you have like a liaison that like acts as a go-between between you and the tribes?
Yeah, so we did in this case have one guy who communicated. I speak Spanglish, I guess, and they all speak Spanish from back in the day. So we set it all up. It's part of the wildlife stuff that I do. We literally flew a DC-3, a World War II cargo plane, into this cocaine dealer's airstrip.
What?
And then that's how we got there. I mean, like, mind-blowing stuff.
Current cocaine dealer or former?
Former, yeah. Well, you know,
Who knows?
TBD.
It's still Colombia, right?
Exactly.
Wow.
So yeah, I was that one was really cool, really remote.
How crazy is it that they learned Spanish from people who came over on boats from Spain and it just stuck?
Isn't that nuts? And took over the whole like
Region.
Yeah, the whole world. And
Except
here's this tribe in the middle of the Amazon that has this language from another continent.
Well, and Brazil, right? From Portugal.
Right.
It's really incredible when you stop and think about it. I mean, it's incredible, but it's also part of it's a little sad. Like, wouldn't you have loved to have heard what their original language was?
Oh, absolutely.
Like what it sounded like?
Well, they did. So it's funny because when they didn't want us to understand what they were talking about, they would switch to their native Indian language. So they still had... They were bilingual, a community of 25 people that have never left, and they're bilingual.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Now, their native language is what? What is it?
It's an Amazonian Indian dialect. I honestly don't even... They might have said the name, but I don't recall.
What is the name of their tribe?
Also, I'm not even sure. They're so isolated, they're unaware of what country they live in. They don't even know that they're in Colombia.
Really?
Really. They're just like, to them, they're Amazonian. They're not Colombian, Ecuadorian, Brazilian. They're Amazonian.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So they just stay. Like
Stay.
where they are, they stay.
And the village we were in is literally, I think it's over 200 kilometers from the next village of 15 or so people. And they don't have fuel. They don't have motors. You know, they're just in this pocket and they just subsistence live.
And they're all barefoot, right?
Yeah.
Do they have those crazy splayed out feet?
Big feet, you know, because they're not very big people. They're like small Indian people, but really big, kind of useful feet. And the way that, you know, they could run up and down trees and climb stuff, I mean, it was unbelievable. Like so much more athletic than you could imagine.
I'd imagine, right? They've been doing that their whole life.
Their
right?
whole lives, yeah.
Now, when I say splayed out feet, what I'm talking about is that people that walk barefoot in the jungle for long periods of time, like their whole life, their toes spread out and their feet almost look like a hand.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
I did not pay enough attention. That might have been the case, but I didn't notice
looking
it.
at their feet.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is kind of a weird thing to stare at dudes' feet.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, Steve Ranella, who's a good friend of mine, told me about that. He was in Guyana, and it's the same thing. And they actually got some pictures and videos of these people's feet. But look at these guys up there.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't notice anything like that.
Yeah. This is the, that's, how do you say that? Horani?
Sounds right.
Horani, you think? Horani Indian splayed feet. So it's very strange. Like, it's kind of the opposite of what happens to women when they jam their feet into those little pointy shoes.
Right.
Where they get the toes kind of smush onto each other.
The ballet feet.
Yeah, it's horrible. Instead of that, they're all like crazy spread out. What in the fuck is going on there? The guy's
The
got
top
like
is hands, I think.
wood. Yeah, the top is hands, but the bottom is like wood feet.
But
Like,
that's got to be like what our feet are supposed to be.
probably right.
Right?
Yeah, thick ass toes that actually have muscles in them that move.
That you can use like a tool, like your hand.
Yeah. So, and these guys just can climb up trees with them, so they grip the side of the tree with their feet like a hand.
Oh, I mean, I didn't notice, like I say, the feet just like that specifically, but the way they could, like, everything's covered in mud down there, right? It's all wet. It rains every day. And they could run up and down these tree trunks, like, to get up and down the village. And here's me and my crew with our awkward cameras and stuff, and we're slipping and sliding and falling over.
Yeah.
And, like, they're literally like, what's wrong with these people? Why can't they walk? We must have looked like infants to them.
Right, and you guys probably have like boots on and shit that
Of
get
course.
muddy and fucked up and.
Oh,
yeah.
totally. Yeah, we're wearing, muck boots, and my one buddy's got waders on, and, we think we're all hard and cool because we got all this gear, and they're just, like, running around in shorts barefoot.
It is so fascinating when you see people that don't have contact with the outside world. Like, I'm sure you're aware of that recent story. The missionary was killed by the people on North Sentinel Island.
Absolutely.
Which is one of the weirdest places because they've branched off from Africa, 60,000 years ago or something like that.
Right.
When you're around these people, like, what do they do if they get injured?
So funny you asked that because we kind of had that same question, right? And they don't leave. They stay in the village. They have a shaman at the village who blessed us with a crazy green powder, and that's a whole nother story. But they have a shaman, and he is their doctor. However, he has no access to any Western medicine. So it's only his learned knowledge handed down through generations plus jungle powders and whatnot. And that's it. So we spent a day, because we had a medic with us, doing like kind of village help, if you will. Everybody had ringworm. Everybody had respiratory infections. There were a lot of lady problems in the village that our medic had to deal with. I mean, there was a lot of health issues, and you don't even realize it.
I'm going to write something down before I forget. I'm sorry, it's totally unrelated. But
No, all good.
There's a doctor named Peter Hotez that's coming on the podcast, and I have to follow up on him. When you start talking about the people in the jungle, he's an actual doctor who is he specializes in infectious diseases in jungle and tropical climates, and he's like, everyone's infected with something.
Everyone.
He'd
He'd have a heyday down there.
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably been.
Yeah.
But so when these people have ringworm and all these different infections, do they treat it? Do they have like some naturopathic cure or some shit?
I think it's kind of a 50-50. Like, a lot of it they don't treat because it's just part of everyday life. Like, when I say everybody had ringworm, I meant everybody had it. So I don't think there was any kind of treatment or cure. It was just kind of part of them. But other things, the witch doctor or the shaman was trying to treat. And then we kind of went in and we had like medication for ringworm, so we dewormed everybody, and with the shaman's blessing, and he was like super excited to have Western medicine in the village. And
would you use like Lamisil or something like that?
I couldn't tell you. I think it wasn't topical. I think it was like a Vermox, like a pill that you take that kills the worms.
The Amazon has some of the insane and honestly grossest stuff out there. You've got bugs that lay eggs under your skin, worms that grow inside your body, and fish that can swim into you if you're not careful in the water. And there are bullet ants too, and their stings feel like getting shot. The pain lasts for hours. Leeches don't just chill in the water, they fall from the trees. And with how humid it is, even a small cut can turn into a serious infection real fast.
The weird thing about that is like, don't you leave and then they're going to get it again, right?
I mean, there's only so much you can do,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, totally. That we were having the same dilemma,
Yeah.
and it was like, do we interfere because we're from the outside world? Do we help? And we talked to the shaman through our translator, and he said, please help, please help. So we gave, including him, everybody this dewormer, but,
Yeah,
they'll
it's
just
like-
come back.
Yeah, and also they probably don't understand the consequences of taking some antibiotic that's going to do some weird shit to your whole biome, right?
Right. And
Kills
these are all the
good stuff too.
It's such a moral dilemma. You're there and you're like, I want to help. Do I? Is it helpful? Is it hindering?
Yeah.
Our medic was like, it's undeniably going to help. You know, they need this. And so we went for it. And it was, you know, it seemed to help. Everybody felt fine, but we were only there a couple more days before we left. So who knows?
Wow. Now, when you're talking about ringworm, like, are these guys covered in it? They have big patches of it? Like, what's it like?
Feet and legs had big patches of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this, if you don't know, that's the same shit that's athlete's foot.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, ringworm and athlete's foot are the same kind of funk.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's why people tell you to pee on your feet.
Oh, I thought that was
if
just
you
for
have
fun.
It could be for fun. Depends on what you're into. But I think that's the idea behind it, is that you're somehow or another you're killing the bad bacteria when you piss on your feet and you have athlete's foot. That might be horseshit. Maybe, yeah. With me, you always have to check. Yeah, definitely give that a little look-see. But it's a real common thing with jiu-jitsu.
Gotcha.
So guys,
just all the mats.
Yeah, it's real common. So just guys get it, and there's people really fuck up where they like put bleach on it and a bunch of different things to try to kill it, and it winds up getting worse, and also fucks up all the natural skin flora. Jock itch, athlete's foot, and ringworm are all types of fungal skin infections known collectively as tinea. They're caused by fungi called dermatrophytes that live on the skin, hair, and nails and thrive in warm, moist areas, the jungle.
Gross.
So it seems like they're just going to get it.
That's just what it sounds like. You know, but
what
still
do they
trying
do
to help.
for it? What do they do for it?
I didn't see them treating that at all. And when we pointed it out, they were like, yeah, we know about it. You know, they were more concerned with things that were like dire. Like there was an infant, maybe not infant, maybe 3 years old, and he was hacking up a lung. And he was asthmatic, according to our medic. So our medic gave them like an asthma medication. And he just said, you know, if he has an attack where he can't breathe, give him this. And like, you know, to be super real with you, when we walked away, our medic was like, I doubt he'll live to see adulthood.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And were you giving him inhalers? Did you give him...
I'm not sure, to be honest, what it was that he left with him.
And what about like injuries? What if they break a leg or something like that? What do they do?
I don't think anything. Yeah.
Was any? I mean, you got to think these people are climbing trees. They must
constantly fall, get bitten by stuff. There's tons of venomous snakes out there. It's wet, it's muddy, it's slippery. They're building stuff out of very rudimentary tools. I mean, it's nuts. They have to get injured.
It's so interesting that we have this understanding of medicine and doctors and hospitals, but that's probably pretty fucking recent.
Oh. Of course, yeah. I'll tell you a story, Joe. I was in Myanmar late last year, and we're down there filming this thing, and this kid, like 22-year-old crab fisherman, gets bitten by a crocodile.
Oh.
Croc grabs him by the arm, grabs him by the thigh, and death rolls. So it breaks the arm in like, I don't know, 15 places, compound fracture, the real deal. I can show you pictures of it. It'll blow your mind. And we hear about this, and we're minutes away. It's kind of one of the similar situations where we're the first Westerners to be there in a long time. We go bombing over at high speed, and we get there, and the mom is like off mourning the death of her child, but her child is sitting there still alive. Like they have written him off, and mom is literally mourning the death of her child, and he's lying there conscious, but like in total shock. Fortunately, just because of the situation, we had a speedboat, everything else. We bandaged him up, you know, tried to keep his arm stable and his leg stable, put him in our speedboat, and it was 6 hours by speedboat to a village that had to a hospital, really. And so he got there, and his life was saved. But we asked the people in the village, what were you going to do? And they're like, there's nothing we can do.
Wow.
So he was just going to bleed out or go septic, and that was the end of it.
Ooh, what a fucking rough way to go.
Right?
Ooh. How did he get away from the crocodile?
I don't know. I think he was just hitting it or hammering on it. He was crab fishing in the water, and it came up and grabbed him, rolled a few times, and at some point he escaped. How he even got back in the boat and made it back to the village, I have no idea, because his leg was shattered, his arm was shattered. It was brutal. And it was a canoe, you know. It wasn't like he had a little motor or a wheel to drive. He canoed back.
One of the most disturbing stories I ever read was these guys were kayaking in an African river, and the guy in front of them got grabbed by a crocodile, and that it went under, and it plunged like a bobber as the crocodile pulled him out of the bottom of the kayak.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck.
That's awful.
Imagine being the guy behind him and watching that
just
shit.
Just watching, yeah, and knowing that you're pretty much helpless.
Did you see any jaguars or anything?
I've never seen a jaguar. I've seen a lot of lions. I'm from Africa. I don't know if you knew that, but so I've seen a lot of lions growing up. My family did safaris, and then I've seen mountain lions here in California, leopards, stuff like that. I've never seen a wild jaguar.
Really?
Yeah.
Even when you were in the Amazon?
I think they're really elusive. I know there's areas that are hot spots. All of the locals were very nervous and kind of knew about them. Like, I went out for bushwalks at night and stuff, and I'd just go me and one guy with a camera. And they were like, "Oh, be careful! Like peligroso, very dangerous. Don't do it." But
peligroso means very dangerous.
Peligroso, like danger. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so we just go, and I'm not trying to act like we were tougher than them or anything. We would love to have seen one, but they were very aware of them, so they were there. We just didn't happen to run into one.
Sort of like mountain lions.
Exactly.
Yeah, like they say that mountain lions are like if you live in a place that has them, Wyoming or Colorado or something like that, they know where you are.
Right.
But
right.
They might be around you all the time, and you might rarely see them. Like
exactly.
Maybe driving home, you see one skittering into the bush.
There was a nuts video, I think it was from the LA area. Did you ever see it, where the security cams picked up this mountain lion that was walking through this like very residential neighborhood, and you'd see like people would walk by, and then 30 seconds later he'd like dip out of the shadows and then dip back in, and then the next set of people would walk by, and nobody had any clue he was there.
Yeah, it's crazy that a giant predator can move around like that.
Right.
Yeah. So when you're there, like, what would you have done if someone got bit by a venomous snake or a spider or something like that? Did you guys have any anti-venom? Were you prepared for something like that?
I mean, that's my department, right? Like as the wildlife guy, that's kind of my department, is make sure nobody gets bitten, make sure nothing like that happens. And we handled very many venomous snakes and caught anacondas and all kinds of great stuff. We did have, like, my main camera guy, his name's Mitch. He got absolutely lit up by these wasps one night. And we all were. We got like 12, 14 stings each. But I looked back in the canoe at one point, and his eyes are just super swollen. He's bright red. He's sweating. I'm like, "Mitch, you okay?" He's like, His throat started to close up. He was having an allergic reaction. So we had to hit him with antihistamines. And I'm not actually sure if the medic administered the EpiPen or not. But he was like, we're in the middle of the jungle. We're 6 hours from a village that's then a full day's travel by a charter plane from a hospital. I mean, middle of fucking nowhere. And his throat's closing up. And that's why we take a medic with us. Thankfully, we had this emergency medic. He administered the antihistamines, and Mitch was okay. But these things do happen.
Do you ever, like, while you're on these crazy adventures, do you ever out there going, "This is the last one"?
Nah, never. No way.
Never?
No way, man. I love it. I live for it.
Wow.
Story number 3. But now, let's see the mind-blowing stuff they're finding in the wild Amazon.
This reminds me of when you talk about that island, that private island,
Yes.
Sentinel Island?
North Sentinel
Island?
Yeah.
Planes still fly over that, or no? Are they not allowed to fly over that as a restricted airspace?
I don't think it's restricted. No. But you can't land there, and you can't circle.
Right.
You can't visit.
India owns it, right? Doesn't India control it?
I believe so.
Yeah, and it's like 10-mile radius. Mm-hmm. I saw a thing online that said a boat crashed there, and you could still see on Google Images the remnants of the boat.
Yeah, they came for the people in the boat too, and the helicopters got them off the boat right as the people were like pulling up in
so they
little
lived.
rafts and shit. Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, they lived, but the villagers were coming for them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you imagine stumbling across a village?
They've been fucked with sometime in the past. That Commander Maurice Vidal Portman, that guy.
Yeah.
Shout out to Respectable Law on Twitter. He has a giant thread about it. It may be pinned on the top of his Twitter page, but explaining like one of the reasons why those people are so hostile.
Right.
And it has to do with this British explorer who was really kinky. And
he went there to fuck.
Yeah, who knows
he
what
wanted
he
fuck
did.
island.
Who knows what he did, but people got sick because of him. I had this guy, Graham Hancock, on, and he was talking to me about all the different shit that they're finding in the Amazon and in South America, and that there used to be 20 million people that lived in the Amazon, and they died off because of sickness. They were visited mostly, like apparently Europeans, when they came in like the 1500s, they would tell these incredible stories about these huge civilizations in the Amazon. But then when explorers came back 200 years later, there was nothing there. And they were like, "This is crazy." They lied. They must have lied. But it turns out they didn't lie. What happened was smallpox ran through the fucking jungle and
White
killed
people.
everybody.
We did it.
And then the jungle just overtook these cities, and now they're finding these cities with something called LiDAR. They use these planes and they circle over this area, or helicopters, whatever the fuck they do, and they shoot this shit down, this LiDAR. It's like laser radar, and it gives you a detailed image of what's below the surface and what's
Holy
there.
shit.
And it shows them all these crazy structures, all these like roadways and irrigation systems and circles inside of a square. Like, it was villages and cities, and millions of people probably lived there.
Fuck.
And look at it. That's all the stuff they're finding now.
What?
Yeah. And all of it was swallowed up by the jungle. They think within like 100 years, it just vanished in the jungle.
Wow.
Because it's so lush and tropical down there. Dude, it was one of the most amazing podcasts I've ever done. To listening to that guy tell this story.
Right after this one, though.
No, you are the best. You're the best. But he's
This is kind of this is like
different.
this is like the findings of Atlantis, right? Like when they started finding, you started finding
Very
more and
simple.
more land
Have you
underground.
seen this? They found traces of 5 drugs, including dimethyltryptamine, on a 1,000-year-old South American ritual kit.
DMT, baby.
So that's like proof positive evidence that at least 1,000 years ago they were using ayahuasca.
This was the drug pouch that was made from fox snouts. That
Yeah.
sounds so crazy. but,
Fox nose.
It literally when you see it, it looks like a nose of a fox.
They used everything.
And the fur
That
is
is
still
crazy.
intact. It looks really nice.
The nose. I wonder why they do that with a fox. It's probably like some cleverness. Do you know that that's what a shaman, that's like literally what a shaman is supposed to, that's what the definition is supposed to be in certain cultures?
Huh.
Certain cultures, it's a clever fellow. That's who the shaman is.
It kind of makes sense. They are just clever fellows.
But I mean, imagine that. Like, he takes a fox, that clever little fucker. I'm going to take his face.
I want
and
his
hide
fucking
my
face.
drugs in his face. Only a person would think to do something so
I'm gonna
creepy.
hide my drugs in this
or
thing's
an
nose.
insect.
Chipmunk cheeks.
Yeah, right? That would be the
Some
good
big
move.
pouch.
Yeah, a little pouch.
Those are good pouches.
That hangs from your belt. It's just chipmunk cheeks with all your coins in it.
This part about the Sentinelese tribe is real. They lived on that island for like tens of thousands of years with no contact from the outside world. Anyone who tries to visit usually gets attacked because they don't want outsiders there. And honestly, can you blame them? In 2006, 2 fishermen got too close and didn't make it out. India made it illegal to go near the island, mostly to protect the tribe from getting sick since they've never been exposed to modern diseases. Same thing happened in the Amazon way back when Europeans showed up. They brought stuff like smallpox that wiped out whole communities without even meaning to. That's why people thought those big cities in the jungles were just legends until now. With LiDAR, they're starting to find out what was really there. Story number 4.
Some of the more fascinating pieces of evidence in South America have come out recently about these channels and pathways that they've found in the Amazon that could not have been created any other way but by humans
Absolutely.
creating irrigation, humans creating, like, it appears like grids, like a city grid.
Definitely. The Amazon is a colossal mystery, and it's one of the subjects that I explore in depth in America before. First of all, to give some basic figures, the Amazon basin is huge. The Amazon basin is 7 million square kilometers in area. And within it, 5.5 million square kilometers remains almost entirely unstudied by archaeologists. And that's the 5.5 million square kilometers that is still covered by dense rainforest. And to put that into perspective, 5.5 million square kilometers is the size of the entire Indian subcontinent. So it's like saying, we've done world archaeology, but we've just ignored India, you know. We've done world archaeology, but we've just ignored the Amazon. It's the same argument. 5.5 million square kilometers. The view was, again, there was a dogma. There was a preconception. Human beings couldn't have flourished in the Amazon. It's not a resource-rich area. The soils are poor. It's a difficult area, challenging to get to, very far from the Bering Straits. So the view was that humans hadn't entered the Amazon until about 1,000 years ago. And then gradually, little by little, that view has begun to change. And it's begun to change because of the tragic clearances of the Amazon, because the Amazon rainforest is literally being cut down and turned into soybean farms and cattle ranches. And in that cutting down process has emerged things that shouldn't be there at all. For example, evidence that large cities flourished in the Amazon. Enormous cities, which were larger than there was a Spanish explorer who went down the Amazon River system in 1541 to 1542. He was the first European to cross the entire length of South America from west to east along the Amazon. He reported seeing incredible cities, advanced arts and crafts, millions of people, a thriving culture. And 100 years later, when other Europeans got into the Amazon, they couldn't find these cities. So they said, oh, Francisco Orellana, that was his name, made it all up. It was just a fantasy. And then in the last decade, as the clearances of the Amazon have proceeded, we've begun to see the traces of those cities. What happened was that the Spaniards brought smallpox into the Amazon. Smallpox devastated the local population because there was no immunity to it. There was a massive die-off. The cities were deserted. Within 50 years, they were completely overgrown by the jungle, and that's why they were not seen by the explorers who came in 100 years later. But now the jungle's being cleared, those cities are emerging, and we can say that a city like London, which had a population of roughly 50,000 in the 16th century, there were cities of that size all over the Amazon. Wow. Huge numbers of them. And a possible total population of the Amazon that exceeded 20 million people.
What?
Yes, 20 million. This is the latest evidence from the Amazon. And then you ask yourself, how did they do that? How did they feed 20 million people in the Amazon? Because it's a fact, rainforest soils are poor. It's one of the reasons these soybean farms are a really stupid idea, because once you clear the rainforest, the land is largely unfertile and you can't grow stuff on it for very long. So how did they feed all these people? The answer was they invented a soil. And that soil has a name. It's called terra preta. Archaeologists refer to it as Amazonian dark earths or Amazonian black earth. It's a man-made soil. It's thousands of years old. It's full of microbes that are not found in adjoining soil. It's based around biochar. And you can take a handful of 8,000-year-old terra preta and you can add it to barren soil, and that soil will instantly become fertile. It's highly sought after in the Amazon, and it explains how they fed these people. There was science in the Amazon.
How did they create this?
Well, this is something that's not understood. It's still not understood by soil experts to this day as to how that was done, but it's one of many intriguing pieces of evidence of much higher development in the Amazon that it has been given credit for, and of a kind of science in the Amazon.
Jamie's got an image of it up there. So this is it?
This is terra preta, yeah. Exactly,
wow.
Exactly. And
so was that done by burns? Did they use controlled burns?
They did. One way that it was achieved was to do wet burning. Of middens. They would be burned and smolder. They wouldn't burn fiercely, which just produces charcoal. They would burn and smolder, and that what is called biochar would result, and that's part of the fertility of the soil. But the mystery is the microbial content of this soil, which is completely different from the microbes in neighboring soils, and that remains unexplained.
So, what are the theories? Composting, some sort of advanced composting?
Yes, some sort of advanced composting. But again, what has not been explained is the microbial content of these soils. So there first of all is an issue of how two things: how large populations get fed in the Amazon, and evidence that there was a culture in the Amazon that was capable of manipulating the environment in such a way that it could support large populations with the invention of terra preta. Secondly, new evidence, previously not recognized, the Amazon is basically a garden. The Amazon is a man-made rainforest. There are certain trees like Brazil nut trees or the ice cream bean tree, which are food crops, which are very, very valuable, and they dominate the tree regime in the Amazon. They're what's referred to as hyperdominant species. In other words, people living in the Amazon over thousands of years selected certain trees, which they then cultivated and grew. So the whole thing is not simply a wild, pristine rainforest. It's a very ancient man-made environment. And emerging from that man-made environment, as well as evidence of large cities, large populations, and this mysterious dark earth, are huge geometrical structures. And again, I go into this at length in America before because I love this mystery. We have in the UK structures that are called henges. I live in the city of Bath, and about 30 miles away there's a beautiful site called Avebury and another more famous site called Stonehenge. And what a henge is a ditch which has been dug deep, and then an embankment has been pushed up outside the ditch. When people first saw these structures, they wondered if they'd been built for defense. But then it became obvious they hadn't been built for defense, because if you want to create a moat, you put it outside your embankment, not inside your embankment. So a henge is an earthwork which consists of a deep moat with a large embankment outside it. And it can be circular, it can be square, and in the UK and other parts of Europe, it often contains stone circles, megalithic stone circles as well. But the henge itself is entirely an earthwork. What we find in the Amazon are thousands of henges that are now beginning to emerge from the cleared area of the jungle, and others that have been identified for the first time with LiDAR. LiDAR technology is being employed in the Amazon. It's non-destructive. You can see what's under the trees.
What is LiDAR?
Light imaging and detective radar. They bounce laser beams down into the jungle. There's a whole pattern of them. You need helicopters, and but it doesn't damage the rainforest. And you can strip away and see what's there. If this isn't too much of a diversion, let me give you the example of Guatemala. Guatemala is a small country. If I remember correctly, it's not much more than 100,000 square kilometers in size. It is filled with intriguing Mayan ruins. Everybody has heard of Tikal. What archaeologists didn't know was that literally within walking distance of Tikal, surrounding that whole area were more than 60,000 structures that they hadn't identified. And these have all been identified by LiDAR in a country that's just 100,000 kilometers in area. So you have to ask yourself, in that 5.5 million square kilometers of the Amazon, if LiDAR technology could be applied comprehensively, what would we find beneath there? And the evidence already is extremely tempting and extremely tantalizing. And I'm intrigued by these huge geometrical figures, which involve primarily circles and squares. And they are classic henges in the sense that they are deep ditches surrounded by huge embankments. They're extremely geometrical. For example, you can find an octagon surrounding a square. At a place called Jacosá in the Amazon, you can find a square perfectly enclosing a circle. Now that is an exercise called squaring the circle that our academics have given to the Greeks. They said the Greeks were the first people who performed that exercise. But now we find in dated sites in the Amazon that this was being done in the Amazon long before the Greeks.
What are the dates?
The earliest dates that have been found in these sites now are about 3,500 years old. About 3,500 years old. But the evidence is that the sites have been constantly remade. And what intrigues me is what remains in that 5.5 million square kilometers that has not been investigated yet. We are just, I think, looking at the edges of a mystery. The archaeologists involved, who are mainly from Finland and also from Brazil, feel the same. Their estimate is that there are thousands of these structures remaining in the jungle, and they're open as to how old they may ultimately prove to be. The investigation needs to be done. But what's fascinating about them is this very powerful geometry and astronomy. So a number of the sites are perfectly aligned to true north, true south, true east, and true west. I'm not talking about magnetic north. I'm talking about true astronomical north. To do that, there's only one way to do it, and that's with astronomy. So that tells us that astronomers were at work in the Amazon. The geometry is very complex and very precise. That tells us that people with geometrical skills were at work in the Amazon. And thirdly, the scale of the sites of hundreds of meters, gigantic earthworks on the scale of hundreds of meters, tells us that this was highly organized project that was undertaken on a very large scale by very large numbers of people. It's a wonderful mystery, and it deserves much further attention. And that's Jacosá, exactly, the squares, squaring the circle. So you can see the outside embankment, and then inside it is the square ditch, and then there's another embankment inside that, and a circle inside that.
It's crazy that they made a road right through that. What
well,
assholes.
A modern road, yeah, because there's no respect for for the ancient world, unfortunately.
And there's another one. Look at that! Wow, that's incredible.
So there are thousands of these things.
How they found the stuff that they found in the Amazon? What imaging technology were they using to find all this?
Initially, it was entirely found because areas of the rainforest had been cleared. Economic interests said, we want to make a cattle ranch here, or we want to make a soybean farm here. So we're just going to clear the rainforest. In the process of clearing the rainforest, they start discovering these earthworks that had previously been completely overgrown by the jungle. Then the next step was to say, what could we do to find out more about this? Obviously, they don't want to destroy more jungle, and luckily we have a technology which is LiDAR, as I mentioned, which uses radar. And using LiDAR, they've been able to identify many more of these sites, and then to get to the sites without destroying the jungle, and and to begin excavations on them and to find that they go back, in the cases of the ones that have been explored so far, at least 3,000 years. This is an intriguing development, completely unexplained in our understanding of the Amazon. And what it suggests is a heritage of extremely ancient knowledge. You don't wake up one morning and, create a perfectly geometrical square or circular earthwork that's perfectly aligned to true north, south, east, and west on an enormous scale. There has to be a background to that. There has to be a reason for doing it. And the evidence is none of these sites were lived in. There's no habitation refuse found in them whatsoever. We don't know what they were used for. I make the case in America before that they're connected to a system of ideas which is found all around the world, which is to do with death and the afterlife destiny of the soul.
Recent discoveries in the Amazon have revealed evidence of ancient human-made structures and pathways, challenging what we've always thought about the region. For years, experts believed the harsh conditions of the Amazon couldn't support large populations. But new findings show that massive cities and sophisticated systems like irrigation and city grids thrived there long before Europeans arrived. Sadly, these cities disappeared when diseases like smallpox wiped out the population. What's even more surprising is that these ancient people created special soil called terra preta, which is still incredibly fertile today. Using LiDAR technology, researchers are uncovering massive geometric shapes and structures that suggest the Amazon was carefully managed and cultivated by humans, not just a wild jungle. These discoveries are showing us that the Amazon was much more than we've ever imagined. Story number 5.
I can sort of understand that in a sense of like, I'm not an adrenaline junkie. Like, I don't go for skydives or, any of that stuff. It doesn't drive me. But that thrill and rush I get of, darting a bear or working with a lion or doing, swimming with an anaconda, like that fuels me for weeks. Like I get getting goosebumps thinking about some of them right now because I get so excited by. And it's not just for a personal rush, but rather, we're doing it for work or whatever. But those moments stick with me forever. And I sort of get that, but not like I'm just going to risk my life over this climb or whatever, So
what are
it's
your
sort of
thoughts
different.
on giant anacondas? Like, because there's always been this thing about enormous anacondas that live in the rainforest.
So, yeah, there's fascinating. So I love anacondas. I believe, and I've got a colleague, Brian Fry, in Australia, actually, and he has a similar belief that there are 30-foot anacondas. Now, 30 is a big anaconda, but you're talking about those mysterious, like 50, 100-footers.
Yeah.
Okay, so take out the Amazon and take out anacondas for a second.
Okay.
All right? Think about where all the largest snakes are in the world. Okay?
Florida.
Well, now, yes. But, we've got all these wet tropical environments that house these huge snakes. In Indonesia, you have reticulated pythons. You have Burmese pythons. You have African rock pythons, Indian rock pythons, anacondas, all these big snakes.
Yeah.
The only place that has a wet, tropical, humid, high-density of prey environment that doesn't have a massive snake is the Congo, Central Africa. Now,
Interesting.
Stay with me. That area is home to some African rock python stuff, but not big monster anaconda size ones, right? But during World War II, there was a colonel who flew over there, and this was a well-respected colonel. I'm sure, Jamie, you'll be able to find this very quickly. A well-respected, I forget, he had his wings or his patch of honor or whatever, very distinguished, who him and his 2 passengers in the plane both reported a 100-foot-long snake. They flew over it once. They're like, wait a minute, what is that? They were Dutch Belgium in the Congo. They flew over it once, went, what is that? And flew over it 2 more times to verify it and got so low to the ground that they said the snake struck at the airplane. And all 3 people, the pilot, this well-respected colonel, and the 2 passengers had the exact same story of this giant snake in Central Africa.
Interesting.
Yeah, and yet no big snake has ever been proven from there. But it's also a very poorly biologically explored area. And most of the time, when these animals get this big, snakes or otherwise, they're in very low... Yeah, here's the picture.
They took a photo of it?
They did. Yeah, they did. They're in very low densities. So, that's the real photo over on the left there.
What did they think it was?
They thought it was a giant snake, a 50-foot long...
So that's the photo right there?
I believe so. But But the story's fascinating of these kernels.
But they don't know like what kind of snake. They don't know if it was an anaconda or a python or.
It would be an undescribed species because the only snake there, the African rock python, doesn't get that big.
What is the biggest snake that we know? Oh, it says it measured approximately 50 feet in length. Saw brown-green with a white belly, has a triangle-shaped jaw and a head 3 by 2 feet. Oh my God. A 3-foot head. The photo was later analyzed and verified to be genuine. Van Leerd claims that, is that how you say his name?
I'm not sure, but that was the Colonel, Remy Van Leerd.
As he flew lower for a closer inspection, the snake rose up approximately 10 feet, giving a warning that it would have attacked a helicopter if it had been within striking range.
But imagine flying over and having a snake sort of lunge at a helicopter.
Imagine a 3-foot snake head. Jesus Christ.
Jamie, do you mind going to my Instagram
Literally
quickly?
swallow you alive,
Dude,
easily.
look at this one. I posted a picture day before yesterday. This is 18 feet, and look at the size of it compared to me and how scary this snake is. Now, to think of, like you said, you're like an M&M to a snake that
You're
size.
a Tic Tac.
Yeah.
You're one of them chocolate-covered almonds that are so good for you.
Yeah.
Whoa, look at the size of that thing.
That's an 18-footer. And look at how, granted, it's not 3 foot by 2 foot head, but still, that thing,
What's the weight on something like that?
It was over 200. It broke our scale.
Wow.
Yeah, it was over 200 pounds.
Wow. Indonesian villagers claim to have captured a python that is almost 49 feet long and weighs nearly 990 pounds.
I've seen this. It's not it's not verified at all.
Do they have an image of it?
This might be the one that's on the tractor. No, it's not. There's a fake one on a tractor that
it's fake?
Floated around. Well, it's just very forced perspective. It's like a wide angle lens and the snake is right in front, but it looks massive.
But this is NBC. This is NBC News. Let's see if it has images, this sucker.
So these are all like retics and, there are big snakes out there.
Look at the size of that goddamn thing.
Yeah.
Jesus. So, what is the biggest snake? Is it a python? The biggest snake that we know of?
So the heaviest is the reticulated python.
Look at the size of that thing.
Yeah.
How big is that?
That's big. It's probably 20-ish. So there's quite a lot of 20-foot snakes out there. And then there's a couple 21, 22s, but that's it. And so there's all these rumors of 30-foot snakes and 40-foot snakes and blah, blah, blah. And there's nothing that's been verified outside of one skin, I believe, I want to say from Indonesia, that is but skin stretch. That's the other thing,
it
too.
Turns out to be a tall tale. It says when recreation park in Indonesia put a huge reticulated python on show last week, keepers insisted to reporters it was 49 feet long, make it the longest ever caught, but the find turned out to be a tall tale.
Yeah.
So how big was it exactly?
I bet it was 20-ish. 21, there it is.
Yeah. 21 feet. Still fucking crazy.
It's a big snake, man.
But not 50.
Not 50.
What does it say? I have no idea why the snake has shrunk, said one keeper when asked about the discrepancy as the snake lounged on a tree branch inside the cave. But things do shrivel up when you catch them. Yeah. Like fish do. Like when you catch
animals?
a fish. Yeah.
Well, definitely when you tell people about it. But
That's when you show people.
Yeah.
I went fishing here in Austin this morning.
Oh, did you really?
Right downtown. Literally right in front of the Google building.
Lady
we were
Bird
pulling
Lake?
Lady Bird Lake.
Yeah, there's a lot of
out.
bass out there.
It was awesome, man.
It's a great little spot.
Yeah, really fun.
Right in front of the Google building. That's
right
funny.
in front of it, yeah.
Yeah. So the biggest in the world is the python, right? So they are bigger than anacondas?
So it's sort of a toss-up. The reticulated python has been clocked as the heaviest snake in the world because they get fatter, but the anacondas have been clocked in slightly longer. I think 26 feet is the longest ever recorded.
Did you ever see the Jennifer Lopez movie, Anaconda?
Yeah. The documentary? Yeah. Yeah, it's great.
It's such a corny movie,
It's
man.
so good. The bad snake head if you watch it
so
today.
bad.
It's so bad.
It's so bad. But that was always the rumor, is that there was enormous snakes in the Amazon and that, you just didn't see them.
I do believe that there are some megafauna out there that are yet to be found, that are in low populations.
Like you believe in the sloth, the giant sloth.
I believe that has and again, that's like the thylacine. It's a proven animal. It's been 10,000 years, but it doesn't mean that it couldn't be extant in certain remote areas. Same with some of these big snakes. Maybe not 50, because maybe these things are embellished, but maybe 30, maybe 35, right? And I just think that there are a few, not a lot, of these big things out there. If you're one of these uncontacted Amazonian tribes, of which there are still several, West Papuan tribes, whatever, and you're seeing a 50-foot snake, nobody in the Western world, we're not hearing about that.
Right.
Like those things can be happening and those stories get embellished and passed on and all of that, but we wouldn't even know until Western science gets in there. And it's sort of a double-edged sword, because once it does, it sort of ruins certain aspects of that, right? So, but I do believe that there are big animals to be found still.
Forrest Galante explains how he doesn't get a thrill from traditional adrenaline activities like skydiving. But the real rush for him comes from working with dangerous animals like bears, lions, and anacondas. This intense connection isn't just for the excitement. It sticks with him because it's all part of his work, creating lasting memories. When it comes to giant snakes, particularly anacondas, he mentions rumors of 30-foot monsters in places like the Congo, based on a mysterious World War II story about a colonel and his passengers who allegedly saw a massive snake. While these huge snakes haven't been verified, Galante believes that unexplored and remote regions could still hide massive animals, like snakes or even giant sloths, that might not have been fully discovered yet. Despite the skepticism, he maintains there's always a possibility of finding unknown megafauna in low population areas, especially in places where Western science hasn't yet reached. Story number 6.
So what I see in the Amazon is traces of a lost science, a scientific mindset. Can I show some pictures of these geoglyphs?
Please.
We have to hook up the magical
HDMI.
And I'll just show a few slides of them. I forget which side the HDMI is in. I think it's in that side.
Careful with the water.
Yeah.
Got it?
Okay. Are we on screen?
We will be momentarily. Here we go.
Yeah, so this shows the Amazon, 6.7 million square kilometers. There's still 5.5 million left covered by rainforest. That's bigger than the entire subcontinent of India, and hardly any archaeology has been done. And the archaeology that is being done is fascinating. And it's particularly in the state of Acre, in the southwest of Brazil, that we're seeing these extraordinary geoglyphs. Now, I'm on the left there. That's Martti Parsanen from the University of Helsinki, and that is Fabio Filho, who's the LiDAR expert, and that's Alceu Ranzi, who's a Brazilian geographer and archaeologist. And we're looking at the latest LiDAR discoveries, and there I'm about to take off in a plane with these two guys. It was just incredible to fly over there. I've flown over the Nazca lines many times, but to fly over this and to see these huge earthworks on a scale of hundreds of meters sitting there, often encroached on by farms, was very, very, very exciting.
And what's the conventional explanation for these things?
There is no conventional explanation, because really it's only begun to be studied. Alceu first noticed them on an overflight more than 20 years ago, but it's only relatively recently that they've started to get the funding. And I want to pay tribute to Eugene Zhong, who is a philanthropist, who has provided funding for these guys to continue their work, and who's also provided funding to the Comet Research Group, and who's also provided funding for the DMT research that's being done at UCSD.
What's his name?
Eugene Zhong. He's a brilliant
Eugene
guy.
Zhong.
Jhong. He's a brilliant philanthropist, and he's so open-minded, and he's looking to support research in areas that the mainstream just won't touch.
That's amazing.
So we're
Good for
looking at
him.
Fazenda Cipoal here, where we have an octagon with rounded corners. And then this is Santa's shot of the same place. And you can see what's going on. You see the smoke in the background there? Mm-hmm. That's the Amazon burning. That's settlers clearing the Amazon to create more farms. But in the foreground, we have this enormous geometrical event, which is a huge oval surrounding a square.
And did they find this once they started clearing? Is that when this...
This was found as a result of the clearances. That's
Okay.
how it became... Archaeologists became aware that these things exist.
So before that, this was completely covered with trees?
Completely covered with rainforest. It was only it's a sort of mixed blessing or mixed curse, if you like, because the clearances made it possible for us to know that these things exist. But the clearances ultimately will destroy the entire Amazon if they're allowed to continue. Jacosá, on the left, a square surrounding a circle. And Here's a couple of scientist shots of Jacosa. You can see there's a large square earthwork and a circle in it. That's almost, not quite, but almost like the Greek exercise of squaring the circle. It's like geometrical exercises are taking place here in the Amazon. Again, a square with these curious scallops cut into the side of it, and a circle. There's just so much of this of this stuff. Taquino, absolutely giant geoglyph, and these things really, on the old view of the Amazon, shouldn't exist. They involve enormous expenditure of effort. Creating these earthworks is a huge job. If there was a lot of stone in the Amazon, I think we'd see stone circles on them as well. There's one place further north called Rego Grande where there is an earthwork with a stone circle in it because stone is locally available.
So do you think this was the base of a structure? Like, what is the speculation?
No, I don't think so. I've talked to indigenous people there who still respect and revere them. And they say that they were for shamanic journeying, that the population would gather within them, that there would be certain areas that might be reserved for the shamans. For example, the square on the left, those two cut-out areas, top left and right of that square, it suggested that shamans were in there and the rest of the population were in the other area, and they were undertaking visionary journeys, perhaps using ayahuasca. Of course, the Amazonian peoples are experts in the properties of indigenous plants.
So this is their folklore, or this is their story?
Yes, this is the story of indigenous
so that's
indigenous
what they
people.
say.
I talked to an Apurina elder, and he said, we don't know exactly why these places were made. They were made so long ago, but we respect them, we revere them, and we think that they were used by shamans in the distant past.
So they were aware of them before the clearing and everything?
They were aware of them before the clearing, and
Did
they
use
revered them. Yes, they used them, and they still have community gatherings in them. No,
Yep.
they weren't a base for structures. I'm drawing attention here to Severino Calazans, this large square on the left there, which has coincidentally the same footprint as the Great Pyramid of Giza. It just shows you the size of that enormous earthwork. But it's a mystery. More work needs to be done, and much more needs to be surveyed. And thanks to LiDAR, that can be done non-invasively. We can spot these things. Very small teams can go in and do a bit of excavation there and figure out what was going on. I think the story is going to go back further and further into the past.
Is there any evidence of wood structures? Like, did they make buildings out of wood back then?
Not that I'm aware of.
When did people start using wood as a structure?
I think you can trace wood back as a structure hundreds of thousands of years.
But when did they start using it? In, like, if you see like the ancient Mayan civilizations, what you find in the Amazon, you don't find ancient wood structures, do you?
I think that's largely an artifact of the fact that wood doesn't preserve very well.
Right. So how do we know that there weren't wood structures?
There may well have been
over these.
There may well have been, which
Right.
have just rotted away,
Right.
and gone. There may well have been wooden structures there.
Because it kind of looks like foundations.
It does look like foundations, and it's just a very weird thing. But I think the main point is
Someone made it.
Someone made it,
Yeah.
and it involved a very large amount of organized labor in order to make it. There had to be the will and the intent in order to do that. It's interesting that the patterns are geometrical.
And are they geometrical, like with the perfect length? And
Yes,
like
yes, they
match up with each other?
They're very, very good. Fazenda Pirana and Severina Calazans are both aligned to true astronomical north. That's different from compass north. That requires astronomy. You can't get true north without using astronomy. So this tells us not only was there a culture that was capable of creating large-scale public projects, but also they had astronomers amongst them.
Wow.
It's a good mystery. The other thing is the geometrical patterns are very common experience in ayahuasca visions in altered states of consciousness. Our culture tends to despise altered states of consciousness, although fortunately that's changing. But in the Amazon and many indigenous cultures, they're regarded as extremely important, that we can't confine ourselves to the everyday wide awake state of consciousness that requires us to interface with the physical world. There are other states of consciousness which are also valuable and which bring teachings. And it's just one of those facts that most people who drink ayahuasca, most of the time, some point will experience geometrical visions. So there's a question: is there a connection here between the use of ayahuasca and the geometrical patterns? There's a huge rock wall has been found in the Colombian Amazon, Serra de la Lindosa, which I'm hoping to get to this year. 8 kilometers long, covered in rock paintings. The rock paintings are dated more than 12,000 years old. They show extinct megafauna. They show giant sloths which went extinct during the Younger Dryas, for example. And they also show the kind of entities that are seen in ayahuasca visions. They show the same sort of patterns, the same geometric patterns that are seen in ayahuasca. So there's a sense that...
Do you have any images of this place?
Serra de la Lindosa.
You're connected to the...
Yeah, I don't have images of La Lindosa on here.
Oh, maybe you could Google it.
But if
or give the plug
Yeah,
back
I'll
to
take
Jamie.
the plug back. I was trying to Google it and I didn't find anything, and I might have spelled or guessed wrong on Serra
How do you spell it?
de la
La Lindosa.
La Lindosa.
Yeah. Let me just...
I got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
You're going to have to give him the cord real quick, and then he'll give it back to you.
Okay. There you go. It's literally an 8-kilometer Sistine Chapel in the Colombian Amazon. That's the other thing. I mentioned there's not a lot of rock in the Amazon. Where there is rock, they used it. There's rock paintings all over the Amazon where rock is available. These kind of things. Yeah, that's it. These are characteristic of ayahuasca visions, but in this case, they're more than 12,000 years old. Now, does that prove they were using ayahuasca 12,000 years ago? No. But
that's very similar to like a tryptamine vision, though.
Totally. It does suggest that some tryptamine was being accessed at that time and resulting in these visionary images.
Boy, they shitty drawers, weren't they? Their drawing was terrible.
But bear in mind that they're clambering 100 feet up a sheer cliff in order to
do a better job. It's ridiculous.
Create these paintings.
The people were so fat. Are those people or sea turtles? What are those things? It's really interesting to see. So this is 11,000. How old?
12,000.
12,000 plus.
Yeah, 12,000 plus years old.
It's interesting because if you see the paintings that they found in that cave in France, those are 30 plus thousand years old.
Oh yeah, there's paintings in France. If you go to Chauvet, you're looking 36,000 years old.
Can you go to those, Jamie?
Hohenstein-Stadel in Germany.
That's that amazing Werner Herzog documentary.
They often have.
I think was the Cave of Dreams.
Cave of Dreams.
Yes.
Yeah. They often have.
That.
We're looking at Lascaux. Hang on the. Yeah, we're looking at Lascaux there. The bull painting there is interesting.
Were better artists.
They were.
They were.
I have to confess,
they were quite a bit better.
This art is very good. If you go, Jamie, to the NPR, the painting of a bull, one step left from where you are, that one. This is very interesting. There has been an argument made by a couple of astronomers that what is depicted there is the constellation of Taurus, and that in itself is heresy, because archaeologists who want to give everything to the Greeks say that it was the Greeks who invented the constellations of the zodiac, and not shown.
Why do they think that represents the constellation?
Because of the 6 little dots, which are not, I think, on the head. I think they're somewhere behind, not in this picture, which is often how the Pleiades are seen. They're seen. Actually, there are 7 Pleiades, but often to the naked eye you see 6. And the positioning of the Pleiades in relation to the constellation of Taurus is the basis for that argument. It could be. I'm not sure. It's so long since I've looked at this, but I know that there are six dots there. So this cave art was going on all around the world. It's found that some of the oldest art has been found in Indonesia.
Oh, here it is. Here's the.
Yeah, there's the Pleiades. The whole argument about the Pleiades. It's those dots exactly. The ones you pointed to above the back of the bull. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is how the Pleiades are often seen with the naked eye.
Can you go back to the other image? Yeah. Wow.
You know, that it's an argument. It's not accepted by mainstream archaeology because of their narrative, which is that the discovery of the constellations of the zodiac is given to the Greeks or perhaps to the Mesopotamians before the Greeks. It's not thought that any human culture could have noticed the constellations of the zodiac before that, and that's really absurd because the constellations of the zodiac are on the path of the sun. The sun rises against the background of a different constellation every month. And how would the ancients have missed that, especially since the skies were an ever-present phenomenon to them in a way that they are not to us.
Right.
We're cut off from the skies by light pollution, but the ancients were not.
What a fascinating concept that they knew about the constellations 30,000+ years ago.
Yeah, and I believe they did. And we see that again in Göbekli Tepe, in Pillar 43 in Enclosure D. You see a constellation that we recognize as Sagittarius.
The Amazon is full of hidden mysteries, and the geoglyphs found in Acre, Brazil are a perfect example. These massive earthworks, some as large as hundreds of meters, have been there for centuries, unnoticed until recently due to the dense rainforest. What's even more fascinating is how these geoglyphs align with astronomy. Some of them are aligned to true north, not just compass north, meaning the people who built them had a deep understanding of the stars, likely using astronomy for precise calculations. It's wild to think that these ancient cultures might have been using geometry and astronomy to build these structures. And even more mind-blowing is the idea that shamans could have used these spaces for visionary journeys, possibly with the aid of plants like ayahuasca, which is known for inducing altered states that often feature geometric patterns in visions. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It would truly help a lot. I'm Mickey V. Have a great day.